Uh, Welcome to part three. Mm, so we have covered the macro and with PESTEL. Oh, sorry, let me change the color. It's blue color is the better. Macro environment with what? PESTEL, pastel, and the industry level. So with Porter's five forces model. So now we go on level deeper to look at competitive dynamics within an industry. So this is where strategic group analysis become useful. As I already explained previous lectures, one of the key limitations we just identified in the five forces model is that it treats all firms in an industry as relatively homogeneous competitors. But a moment's uh, reflection shows that this is often far from true. So within any given industry, different firms make very different choices about how to compete. So they target different customer segments. They operate at different price points. They use different technologies and business models. They have a different geographic scope. So they invest at different levels in R&D, branding, and service. So strategic group analysis acknowledges this heterogeneity by grouping firms that compete on similar strategic dimensions. Okay, so I'm going to write it. So heterogeneity by grouping firms that compete on similar strategic dimensions. Okay. Mm, so a strategic group is a set of firms within an industry that follow the same or similar strategy as defined by the key strategic dimensions of that industry. So the concept was developed by Michael Hunt in the early 1970s. And subsequently elaborated by Porter and others. Its basic logic is simple but really powerful. The firms within the same strategic group compete most directly with each other. So because they are targeting similar customers with similar offers. The firms in different strategic groups, while still operating in the same industry, so face different competitive dynamics because they have made different strategic choices. Okay, so let me illustrate with the airline industry, so which we have already talked about, so you have some familiarity with its dynamics. So within the airline industry, hmm okay, so if we have enough time, enough place, so airline industry case. Um, the first is the full service network carriers, companies like Delta. So companies like Delta, maybe Korean Air, British Airways, Lufthansa like that. Well, these airlines fly comprehensive route networks, including long international routes, that offer multiple cabin classes, including premium business and first class, provide loyalty programs, and serve meals and beverages, and typically operate out of hub airports. So their business model is designed to capture the full spectrum of passengers, with particular emphasis on capturing the high margin business traveler who values service and schedule flexibility. The second strategic group is low cost carrier. It's Ryanair, it's a good example. Uh, and also EasyJet, more Spirit, like that. So these airlines fly point-to-point routes, typically on shorter distance, with a single cabin class, minimal or no complimentary services, and simplified fare structures. So their business model is relentlessly focused on cost minimization and price competitiveness. So they often fly into secondary airports, turn aircraft around quickly to maximize utilization, and generate the revenue from ancillary fee and that supplement base ticket prices. So these are fundamentally different competitive positions. And the two groups face somewhat different competitive dynamics. In Delta, and American competitive intensely with each other for the business traveler between, say, New York and Los Angeles, and this rivalry involves schedule frequency, so lounge quality, upgrade availability, and status benefits, not primarily price. But Ryanair and EasyJet compete intensely with each other for price-sensitive leisure travelers between European cities. So, and that rivalry centers on ticket price with virtually everything else stripped away. Now, you might also identify additional strategic group within the airline industry, maybe ultra low cost carriers that make Ryan look lavish, a regional carrier that feed passengers into major hubs, cargo-focused airlines, luxury niche carriers like Singapore Airlines that compete primarily on service quality. So each of these represents a cluster of firms that have made broadly similar strategic choices. Okay, so we are moving into the strategic dimensions and mapping. So, how do we actually identify strategic group? This is really important, right? So the starting point is identifying the key strategic dimensions along which firms in the industry vary. So these dimensions represent the major strategic choices that the firms make. So they might include pricing and the price level, the product range and the quality geographic scope, the degree of vertical integration, the distribution channels, levels of customer service, the degree of technological innovation, and so on. So the relevant dimensions vary by industry. So in the automotive industry, key dimensions might be price segment, right? Um, uh, if we have enough place for that. Um, wait, I'm gonna add some. Okay, good. So, so, for example, automotive industry case, the key dimension might be price segment. Maybe economy and mid market and premium and luxury, ultra luxury, like that. And also, they have product type dimensions, product type, maybe car, trucks, SUV, and sports cars. Right? So in retailing, they might be price position, discount, as a mid market, right? And premium. And the format, oh, there's a typo. And format, which means that says channel, physical store, and online, and omni-channel. So in banking, there might be customer focus, retail, commercial, investment, and geographic scope like that. Right? Once you have identified the key strategic dimensions, you can create a strategic group map, a two-dimensional visual representation that plots firms according to their position on two key strategic dimensions. The result is a map that shows a cluster of firms, strategic groups, mhm, and the space between them. Okay, so creating a good strategic group map is more art than science. So you need to choose dimensions that are strategically meaningful, so that capture real differences in how firms compete, and that are sufficiently independent of each other that they tell different things. And you can create multiple maps using different dimensions to reveal different aspects of the competitive landscape. Okay, so let me give you another example. So this time, the hotel industry. mm, Okay, so I'm gonna make the one more page for that. So hotel industry. So one strategic map might plot hotels along two dimensions. So price point, this is the first dimension, and the second dimension is the geographic scope. So the first dimension, price point dimension, which means that is a budget to luxury. A second dimension, local independent to global chain. So in this map, you might identify several distinct groups. So global luxury chain, for example, maybe Four Seasons, my favorite hotel, Ritz-Carlton. Sadly, there are no Ritz-Carlton hotel in Korea anymore. We have, but disappear. And um, um, well, maybe one more. It's enough. It's enough. It's a Four Seasons, and also they have mid-market chain like Marriott, Bonvoy, Brand, and Hilton, hmm and Hyatt. Good. And also they have a budget chain, Holiday Inn, and Ibis, and Travelodge. Maybe they have one more boutique, uh, independent hotels clustered in the premium to luxury segment, and economy, lodging, brand, and the motels at the lowest price point with a limited geographic scope, right? So they also have economy, lodging, brand, and also motels like that, right? Good. And this group face different competitive dynamics. Luxury chains compete primarily on service quality and location and brand prestige. The price competition is muted, right? Because the someone who willing to use the luxury chain brand, they do not care about the price, right? That's why. The budget chain compete mhm, this group um, compete primarily on price and constantly. The traveler wants to know exactly what they are getting at the predictable and low cost, right? And boutique independent compete on unique character, local authenticity, and differentiated experience. So they attract a customer who specifically does not want the standardized chain experience, right? You're good. Um, we move on to the mobility barriers. Uh, um, a crucial concept related to strategic groups is mobility barriers. The mobility barriers are factors that make it difficult for a firm to move from one strategic group to another. So they are analogous to entry barriers for the industry as a whole. So, but they operate at the level of strategic groups within the industry. So why do mobility barriers matter strategically? It's because they explain why firms in attractive strategic groups can sustain their advantages even when firms in less attractive groups observe their superior performance. So if moving between strategic groups were costless and easy, so every firm in a struggling group would quickly move to the more profitable groups, but mobility barriers prevent or slow this migration, so allowing performance differentials to persist. So what creates mobility barriers? Think. Think this question, everyone. What creates mobility barriers? Uh, there's many of the same things that create entry barriers, specialized assets and capabilities, brand identity, customer relationships, economies of scale specific to a particular strategic position, and so on. It's quite a lot. So consider what it would take for a budget carrier like Spirit Airlines to move into the premium full service group dominated by Delta. The Spirit would need to acquire or lease wide-body aircraft for long-haul international routes. So it would need to build a lounge, hire cabin crew trained to full service standards, and develop a loyalty program, establish a partnership with international carriers, invest enormously in brand building, and do all of this while continuing to operate its existing low-cost model. The cost and complexity of that transformation are enormous. So these are the mobility barriers separating the low-cost carrier group from the full-service network carrier group. So similarly, it would be very difficult for Delta to abandon its full-service model and become a low-cost carrier. So it's split mix. The labor agreement, airport, gate contracts, and brand promise are all configured around the full service model. So moving to the low cost group would require dismantling most of what makes the Delta. Understanding mobility barriers is strategically important for several reasons. First, it helps you identify how secure your current strategic position is. So whether firms in other groups could credibly move into your competitive space. And second, um, maybe we move to the space. Yeah, it helps you identify opportunities. The strategic positions that are currently unoccupied but attractive is where you could potentially move if you have the capabilities to overcome mobility barriers. And third, it helps you to think about how to build how to build mobility barriers around your own strategic position, own strategic position. So to protect it from competition. Okay. So these reasons why you are why it is important to understand mobility barriers, right? Good. And mm, the strategic group framework also helps us understand the competitive dynamics more precisely. The key prediction is competition is most intense between firms in the same strategic groups. So competition between firms in different strategic groups is less direct. So this has important implications for how we identify our true competitors. So if you are a luxury hotel group like Four Seasons, your most direct competitors are Ritz-Carlton and similar luxury chains. So not the Holiday Inn Express down the street. The customers who are choosing among luxury hotels are making qualitatively different decisions from customers choosing budget accommodations. The competitive battle lines are largely within strategic groups. So this also means that strategic group analysis can reveal across the group competitive threats that might otherwise be missed. So when a firm from a different strategic group begins to move toward your group, so perhaps through acquisition or strategic repositioning or a new product line, it signals on incoming competitors that may bring different capabilities and a different cost structure. The incumbent firms that fail to notice this cross-group movement can be caught off guard. Um, so a fascinating historical example is how the luxury automotive segment was disrupted by Japanese manufacturers. The okay, mm, this is a good example for you. Okay, I'm gonna make the one more page. So in the 1980s, actually the luxury car market was dominated by German and European brands like Mercedes-Benz, everyone knows Mercedes, BMW, uh, now it's a bit Jaguar, like that. And also my favorite brand, Audi. Mhm. So these brands that occupied a high price, of course, and high quality, of course, strategic group. So Toyota and Lexus, and Honda, not Hyundai, Honda and Nissan, Infiniti launched luxury sub-brands in the late 80s and early 1990s. Actually, for the mm, sub-brand, luxury sub-brand actually. Is it maybe late 80s to early 1999, 1990. So successfully moving into a luxury stretch group with a vehicle that matched European quality standards at more competitive price points. Okay, so they are focused on the more competitive price points. So the European luxury brands initially underestimated this cross-group movement, in part because Japanese companies had previously been associated with economy and mid-market vehicle, not luxury actually. But the Japanese automakers' manufacturing quality, dealer service standards, and the feature content enabled them to successfully bridge the mobility barriers and establish themselves in the luxury group. A success story. A more recent example mm, comes from the fast food and the fast casual restaurant industry for decades. The traditional fast food group, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, like that. So, and the casual dining group, the TGI Fridays, Chili's in the US, so were fairly distinct strategic groups with limited overlap. So then came the fast casual groups pioneered by companies like Chipotle, Panera Bread, and the Shake Shack Burger, is offering food quality close to casual dining at prices and speeds closer to fast food. So this new strategic group did not just disrupt one of the existing groups, so it drew customers away from both. The traditional fast food players responded by upgrading their quality and experience. The casual dining players responded by simplifying and streamlining their offerings. So the emergence of a new strategic group with a distinctive positioning that hybrid combined elements from adjacent groups. So reshaped the entire competitive landscape. So this dynamic reminds us that strategic groups are not permanent fixture. So they can change. They can change. Okay, change. Possible to change. So new group emerge when innovative companies develop distinctive strategies. Existing groups can merge as strategies converge, and firms can be caught between groups. The dangerous stuff in the middle position that Porter warned about if they fail to commit clearly to a consistent strategic position. You must remember that. Uh, okay. Actually, the final concept we will cover today is the industrial life cycle. This is the last concept today for the chapter 2. Hmm, actually, not up today, maybe. Is it due to the length of the lecture time? Maybe this lecture will upload week 3. Even this content is the week two's content. So, anyway, I hope everyone understands it. Okay, so back to the class. So, the industry life cycle, a framework that describes how industries evolve over time and how those evolutionary changes affect competitive dynamics and appropriate strategy. So, the industrial life cycle model is inspired by the biological concept of life cycle. So, the observation that organisms, like industries, go through predictable stages of development: birth, growth, maturity, and sometimes decline. So industries are not born fully formed. They emerge from the introduction of new technologies or the discovery of new customer needs. So grow as those technologies improve and customer adoption spreads. So eventually mature as growth slows and the competition intensifies, and in some cases decline as they are displaced by newer technologies or changing needs. So this is a simplified model. The real industries rarely follow a perfectly smooth S curve. But it is a powerful tool for anticipating how competitive dynamics will change over time and for identifying what strategic priorities are most important at each stage. So let us go through the four main stages. So stage one is introduction. Uh, in this stage, the industry is just being born. So new technology has been invented, or a new market need has been identified, and the first firms have begun commercializing it. So examples from the past would include automobile industry in the late uh, 18th, the um, uh, commercial aviation industry in the 1920s, the personal computer industry in the late 1970s, or the commercial internet industry in the early 1990s. Today, quantum computing, commercially, space services, and certain biotech applications are arguably in this stage. So, what are the characteristics of this stage? First, the technology or product concept is still evolving rapidly. So this is the first concept for this stage, rapidly evolving technology. Mhm. Um, and there is no clear dominant design. Multiple competing technical approaches may coexist. So in the early automobile industry, so there were steam-powered cars, electric cars, and a gasoline-powered car. The gasoline engine did not emerge as the dominant design until Henry Ford's mass production model made it overwhelmingly economical. In the early personal computer industry, it's multiple operating systems competed. So CPMs, Apple's operating system, so Microsoft's DOS. As before the IBM PS standards create a dominant design. Second characteristic is that there are very few firms in the, um, um, in the industry. So and they are all small. So the industry does not yet have established giants. And third, customers are predominantly the early adopters, tech enthusiasts, innovators, hobbyists, not the mainstream markets. Early adopters are typically willing to pay premium prices and tolerate imperfect products in exchange for access to the new technologies, but they represent only a small fraction of the potential eventual market. And the first characteristic is that production costs are very high because volumes are low and learning curve have not yet been fully exploited, so economies of scale have not yet been achieved. So, and last characteristic is that growth is slow in absolute terms, even if the percentage growth rate seems impression on a small base. Okay. Okay, good. So I would like to mention how to survive this stage requires capital patience and the willingness to invest for years before turning a profit. So many early stage companies fail not because their technology is bad, but because they run out of money before the market is ready. So this is why venture capital, which provides patient capital to early stage companies in exchange for equity upside, is such an important institution in markets with innovation-driven industry creation. Okay. Maybe it's better to um, take a break to explain deeply. So take a break first, then I'm gonna back as soon.